An entitled jerk follows my friend around the store, claiming that my friend wasn't actually disabled even though he was, and that he didn't need the mobility scooter that he was riding. And I'm seriously blown away that somebody could be this entitled. Here's what happened. So back in the early 2010s, my friend, we'll just call him Jim, that's not his real name, and his family were moving across the state for his dad's work. Now, Jim has a disability that makes him wheelchair bound. At first glance, he looks like he should be healthy, but in reality, it is quite the opposite. This is going to be important later on. They had set their stuff ahead in a truck, but still had a bunch in their van, and Jim's wheelchair had stuff stacked on top of it. For reference, the seat was folded and the chair was fine. While they were traveling, they decided to stop at a grocery store to grab some supplies for the new place, as they were moving someplace rural, and there were no affordable grocery stores at their destination. At the time, Jim could walk, albeit very slow and withheld, but it was at the risk of falling and getting seriously hurt, as he couldn't catch himself and he was over 6 feet tall. So when they got to the store, Jim was helped out of the van so that he could go inside and cool off. As they were driving through the desert in late August and early September, his folks helped him inside and to one of the available mobility scooters, seeing as his chair was buried amongst all their stuff. So off went Jim in the scooter that had the approximate speed of an inebriated snail. He was starting to cruise around the store when he was spotted by a middle-aged gentleman who is the entitled jerk of the story. And this entitled jerk was walking with his elderly mother. She was obviously having some trouble walking, but it just so happened that Jim was in possession of the last functioning scooter, so she wasn't able to use it. So, seeing Jim riding around the store on the scooter, and also assuming that he was just some teenage kid goofing off, this guy told Jim to get off and let his mother use the scooter. Now, Jim was used to this kind of interaction, so he calmly explained that no, he wasn't just goofing off in a scooter, and that he actually needed it to get around. Well, this entitled jerk then ranted about how Jim was younger, and his mom was in awful pain, so Jim should be respectful of his elders. But Jim naturally just disagreed. He again explained his disability and then drove away. Though not very common, this sort of interaction was not his first, but everyone before had been very understanding of the situation. But that was definitely not the case with this entitled jerk. As Jim perused the wares of the grocery store, this entitled jerk actually followed him around, almost shouting at him for how disrespectful he was. And he didn't think that anything was actually wrong with Jim while leaving his mother at the front door. Now, fun fact about Jim, I have very rarely ever seen him get genuinely angry. I've seen him get upset at a video game or about the state of the United States healthcare system, but he has a very unique ability to let stupid people and their antics roll off of his back like a duck with water. So Jim did exactly what he does best and just blocks this guy out. And trust me, he had a lot of practice doing this, being the oldest child. Well, the entitled jerk kept up his antics, and Jim just pretended that he didn't exist. Eventually, Jim found his parents as they were checking out, and the entitled jerk ran back to his mom after seeing Jim's dad, who, by the way, is not a very small man. Jim and his family, just wanting to be done with their travels, bought their supplies and got out of Dodge. Every time Jim thinks of that story, he says out loud, "You know what the worst part was? He followed me and harassed me rather than taking care of his mom, who looked like she was in awful pain. If I could have, I probably would have slugged him just for that." And honestly, with all things considered, I don't think I'd blame Jim in the slightest. Yeah, that's an insane story. Who in their right mind would follow someone around a grocery store and be like, "Nope, you're faking it. You don't actually need that mobility scooter. You're just a stupid teenager." Like, this guy seriously has his priorities mixed up. Here he is yelling at someone he doesn't even know, while his mother is literally being left by herself. Like, seriously, what a massive jerk. Now, seriously, more to the point, it is insane to me that anyone would actually do this. Just because somebody looks like they don't have a disability doesn't mean that they're not struggling with something that could be very serious. Like, I don't know about you, but this is not something I would want to try to even entertain when it comes to figuring out if someone needs the scooter or not. Like, you're just setting up a really weird precedent, and it's honestly so unbelievably toxic. So good for your friend for not letting this get to him, because I know if I had somebody screaming at me in the store claiming that I didn't actually need that scooter, I probably would have responded in a much worse way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled supervisor demands that I work slower just to impress the boss so that I can have something to do throughout the week. So I decide to maliciously comply, and as a result, I barely did any work and instead sat online watching movies and playing games. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I've always been an incredibly hard and efficient worker, always getting stuff done faster than expected and going above and beyond. My program for college required us to go to class for 6 months of the year and work full-time in our field for the remaining 6 months. As a freshman in college, I got my first job at an automotive supplier. My first semester was fairly slow, mainly due to the fact that the person who was supposed to train me company, went on medical leave my first week there and didn't come back for almost a year, and they were not replaced. However, in my second semester, things really took a turn for the worse. Two key things happened at the start of my next semester. For starters, I was moved to a new department, and secondly, the company began merging with one of their competitors. Now, when the company began the merger, they decided they were going to move everything at my site to the other company's headquarters in another nearby city. The first thing that moved was the vast majority of the equipment my new department used. The upper management made the brilliant decision to leave the 4 members of my department at the old site until the move was complete. So this meant we had essentially nothing that we could work on. And this is right when my malicious compliance comes into play. After about 2 weeks of sitting around, my supervisor finally came up with a small task for me. I completed this in about 4 hours, which I thought was pretty good for something that I had never done and had very little training on. So I went to her and I said that I'm done. Well, the supervisor responded in an angry and panicked fashion. She said, "Done? This was supposed to take you all week. I don't have anything else for you to do now. I need you to look busy in case the boss walks by. Next time I give you something to do, you need to drag it out longer so that you look busy." Now, young, naive me was initially confused by getting reprimanded for working too fast, but you know what? What the boss says goes. A week or so later, and I was given another task. I was to take thousands of these tiny devices that we use and dispose of them by detonating them in a concrete box. And this is one of those things that was just too volatile to just throw it out, so we had to discharge it first. The supervisor reminded me, and remember, take your time and don't go through them too fast. Now, this was obviously just busy work to get me out of the way, but the great thing with this task was that it had to take place in the back garage that nobody ever went in, just to avoid the obvious danger of people walking in while I was setting off a controlled detonation. I could have easily hooked up 20 of these bad boys at a time and set them off every 5 to 10 minutes, and finishing the whole batch in about a week. But you know what? I had to look busy. So instead, I set off about 5 to 10 of these once an hour and spent the rest of the time on my phone playing games, watching Netflix, as well as listening to music, all while getting paid double minimum wage at the time. I managed to stretch that project for the remaining 2.5 months that I was there, finishing just in time for the end of the semester. Anytime someone asked me for help on something else, I politely told them that I would when I was done, but it might be a while because the supervisor told me not to go through these too fast. They usually ended up finding some other bored student to help them out. I think the supervisor genuinely forgot I worked there by the end, because when I stopped into her office in my last week to let her know I had finished the task, she seemed very surprised and incredibly confused to see me. The company ended up paying me $10,000, which is a lot of money for a student at the time, just to sit on my phone all day for 3 months. I sent an email to my supervisor, my boss, and HR at the end of the semester, letting them know that I would not be returning the next semester. In my best corporate language, I let them know that I was leaving to pursue opportunities that would better utilize my time and skills. I found out later, when several of us ran into each other at a jobs fair, that all but 2 of the other students had also quit at the end of the semester, purely out of boredom or uncertainty that we would even have jobs to come back to. The company did not handle the transition well and could never give us straight answers about where, when, or if we would ever be brought back. And honestly, I seriously am so glad that I don't have to deal with that place any longer. Yeah, that sounds like a really boring place to work. You know a place is awful and you're not going to gain anything by working there except for a paycheck, when the manager herself says don't work too hard and just pretend that you're doing something to try and pass the time. Like, that seriously must have been miserable, and I don't blame you for quitting. But regardless, it sounds like you got a sweet paycheck out of doing nothing. I mean, sitting around and watching Netflix and playing games on your phone, that sounds like an awesome way to earn some money. And considering how little that you actually did during that time of that company, that might as well have been your job responsibilities. Today, I messed up by spending almost $25,000 on a friend's expense over Discord, and now I'm at a point where I might go bankrupt just to help support them, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 26-year-old male, and I have spent close to $25,000 trying to keep my friend out of poverty. I don't know what to do, and I feel like if I stop, that I'm indirectly responsible for making her homeless or worse. This all started back in September of this year when I met my friend on Discord. When I first met her, she was simply a broke college student, just trying to make her way through life. Later on, several things happened to her in succession that resulted in me wanting to bail her out. Firstly, she tried to sell some of her stuff with some of her friends, and the friends ended up stealing her car and all of the other stuff in the car. Now, she managed to get her car back, but the friends already sold all of her stuff so that they could have illegal substance money, if you know what I mean. So I bailed her out by giving her money for an Uber. Next, she said she wanted to go visit her grandfather before he passed away, and she was unable to pay for travel expenses to get there. Once again, I ended up paying for her trip. She was extremely grateful for it, but I still still asked for nothing in return. Then her car broke down and she had no insurance because it was too expensive, and I decided to help her out there as well. Then she said she had to go to the ER because she's anemic and has seizures sometimes. She didn't have health insurance before, so I helped out with that as well, and this was covering both the insurance and the cost of the ER visit itself. Then after her grandfather passed away, she wanted to go back home for his will reading, and I paid for those travel expenses happily. But now we get to the part where the costs are getting unreasonable, but might make some sense if anybody else is in this kind of situation. After her grandfather passed away, he left my friend a 1960s Ford to her in his will. At the very least, it's something that she can sell and get enough money to live comfortably. Unfortunately, she isn't getting it because her mother successfully convinced the court at the hearing regarding the car that my friend should not get it. According to my friend, her mom is a lawyer, and she had 3 lawyers on her side arguing for her. Not only did the mother win, but she then went on to countersue my friend for defamation of character and legal fees. She is now getting sued for $10,000, and that is not including the $2,000 that she had to pay for the court costs just for the hearing itself. And this also doesn't include the nearly $900 of travel costs for going to this hearing, nor does it include the food or anything like that. I have spent nearly $25,000 on this woman, and it's getting to a point where I can't take it anymore. If I give her more money, I will go broke myself. If I don't do anything, she'll be arrested, become homeless, or both, or even something worse. Now, before you ask, no, my friend does not have a job because they are too busy with their classes. Until the semester ends, they literally cannot change and modify their class schedule to accommodate. They are currently completely relying on me to fund everything for them. I've set up a GoFundMe page to help out their issue, but I'm doubtful that will even help out, or if enough people will see it to try and help out. I've invested too much money and it's going to bankrupt me. What should I do? Okay, the original poster has got to stop what they're doing. This person is scamming you. They are 100% taking you for every penny. First of all, you don't even know this person. Like, there's a very high likelihood that you're getting catfished because what you're describing is not normal. No Discord friend is going to ask you for tens of thousands of dollars just to help them out of their very niche situation that might not even be true. Like, seriously, these people are playing you for a fool. They are taking all of your money and they're guilt-tripping you in the process so that you keep paying. You're completely convinced by this story that if you stop giving them money, they're somehow going to become homeless and they're not going to be able to get by. But that seriously is a complete lie. I am seriously convinced that they are completely scamming you and they are not actually in any kind of like financial dire straits. Like, they are seriously selling you a song and I would not give them another cent. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be blocking these people immediately and moving on with my life because I seriously believe that these people are scamming you for a lot of money. And if you know what's good for you and your financial future, you would get out as soon as you can. My entitled flatmate has been stealing my stuff, taking whatever he feels like without asking first, and then once he's confronted about it, he doesn't even show any kind of remorse in the slightest. And I'm honestly so disappointed by this guy's actions. Here's what happened. So this situation happened literally today, so I'm still quite mad about it. So me and my boyfriend are currently living in a student residence, specifically a 3-bedroom apartment. We occupy 2 of the rooms, and the other room has been empty until a month ago. We've lived with our new flatmate for only a month, but he's proven to be a disaster since the beginning. For example, he's been using our kitchen utensils and leaving them dirty in the sink. He's been using my towels to shower, which is one of the grossest things I could ever imagine, and so many other things. But the worst part about this is him taking our stuff without asking, and I mean without even mentioning it. The first day that he arrived, we showed him his kitchen cabinet. Yet later that same day, we've noticed him going through our cabinet and using our spices. He could have asked for permission, but I didn't want to create drama out of him taking some pepper. But you know what? Later on, it got way worse. Over the time, I've noticed that there were a lot of used tea bags in the trash, which was a very specific type of tea that I loved, but I haven't drank for a long time. Well, I checked the package and guess what? That's right, half the packages are missing. And it was at that moment I went through pretty much all of my stuff. He used some of my laundry detergent, as well as some of my conditioner. A bottle of sriracha sauce was missing, as well as a $20 bottle of Italian oil that my boyfriend brought from back home. This guy used it and didn't even close it up properly. Now, of course, we had a talk with him today, and he knew exactly what he's been doing, because as soon as we asked him not to take our things, he said to us, "Oh yeah, sure, that's common sense," without even looking at us when we were talking. No remorse, no excuse, nothing. The issue was not even sharing stuff, but rather him consistently taking our things without ever mentioning that he did that or that he needed some of our stuff. And yes, he sort of admitted to doing that, since his response to me saying, "I'm really disappointed about how rude your behavior is," was just to say, "Oh yeah, sure, I understand." And so here we are now, locking our rooms from now on and hoping that he would not go from stealing tea to stealing our money. Yeah, that guy's a massive jerk. I can't imagine doing that to a roommate, let alone roommates that you just got to know. Like literally, this is their first interaction with you. They have not even got to know you yet, and they already know you as a thief and somebody who's gonna steal from them. I don't know about you, but that's a horrible first impression to make. And that is seriously such a shame, because now the roommates have to be on high alert and make sure that this jerk doesn't go through their stuff anymore. Like that's not okay, and honestly, this guy's gotta go. So hopefully you're able to get him out of your house sooner than later, because what you described is completely inappropriate, and you shouldn't have to live your life trying to hide your belongings from your roommate. Am I the jerk for going on a prepaid for vacation after my boyfriend's father passed away? Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 4 years and have been living together for the past 18 months. Our lease is up at the end of this month, and we were hoping to have purchased a house by now, but that just didn't happen. So we decided to just renew our lease and keep the house hunt going. I've also had a very stressful year career-wise, so this fall a few friends and I booked a girls trip to Mexico, and we're gonna go on a yoga wellness retreat. We are leaving next Thursday, and we are already looking forward to it. The week before Thanksgiving, my boyfriend's dad unexpectedly passed away. My boyfriend immediately flew out to be with his mom and siblings, and he ended up staying there for Thanksgiving instead of coming home, which I completely understand. Due to the holiday and scheduling conflicts with other relatives, the funeral wasn't scheduled until the Friday after I leave for my trip. When he told me the date of the funeral, I reminded him that I would be gone. He then asked me if there was any way I could reschedule the trip or get a refund, and I told him that I would look into it. But unfortunately, the trip was booked through a group rate, and it was 100% non-refundable, and none of my friends wanted to go through the hassle of rescheduling, which really sucks, but I do get it. I saved a lot of money to take this trip, and I really need the escape, and if I cancel, I don't get my money back at all. I explained all of this to my boyfriend, and he asked me what I was gonna do. I apologized and told him that I think I'm going on the trip because I don't want that money to go away for nothing. Now, all of this was over the phone because he was still with his family, and he told me that we would talk more when he got back. Well, when he came back home, we talked about it, and I apologized so many times when I was explaining why I was still going on the trip. He seemed to understand and told me that it was fine. But when I asked him when we were going to sign papers to renew our lease, because I want that done before I leave, he said he's not doing that anymore. He said that he came back to figure some things out at work, and then he's flying back for the funeral, and will be staying with his mom while he figures some things out. I asked him why he didn't talk to me about this first, and he said that he's talking to me about it right now. He said his mom needs help, so he's going to stay with her. I asked him what I'm supposed to do about a place to live, and he told me to figure it out with my friends on our vacation. I told him that he's pushing me in a bad situation, and that he seemed fine with me going on the trip and missing the funeral, but he said he wasn't going to beg me to cancel my trip, and that I made that decision on my own, so he's making this decision for himself. I told him he's being a jerk and should have talked to me about it first, but he said that I'm the one who prioritized drinking on a beach over being at his dad's funeral. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yes, the original poster is 100% the jerk in my opinion. They are prioritizing a trip to Mexico instead of supporting their boyfriend. Like, I can't even believe you're asking this question in the first place. Like, yes, you are 100% the jerk, and I think your boyfriend's right to basically say, you know what, I don't really want to be with you anymore. Like, that's kind of what this is leading to, and you know what, if I was the boyfriend in this scenario, I would probably feel the same way. So yes, you are absolutely a jerk, and you just cost yourself your relationship by going to Mexico instead of being there for your boyfriend. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.